Welcome to this special podcast. My name is Trevor Hamlett, and we've got some special guests today, Thomas Campbell and Elizabeth Rose. Hello.
Hello, Trevor.
Hi, Trevor. And hello, Tom.
Yes, and hello, Elizabeth. And thank you for the invitation. I think this will be fun.
Well, just for those people that don't know who any of us are, I'll just give a brief introduction. So Thomas Campbell is a physicist, consciousness researcher, author of My Big Toe, which is is also an international lecturer. His work describes the nature of our larger reality, provides a complete theory of consciousness, and explains our purpose and connection to that larger reality. Along the way, he derives a more functional science and directly answers for the most pressing problems and paradoxes of modern physics. And he's based in the USA. And Elizabeth Rose is an author, speaker, hypnotist, hypnosis instructor, and spiritual healer who specializes in deep trance channels. And her book is called The Diamond Lantern. Her mission is to empower you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, plus enable you to overcome daily struggles with stress, fear, pain, sleep challenges, and she lives in Canada. And my name is Trevor Hamlett. I had a spiritual awakening in 2014, and I assist people to heal, raise their consciousness with the use of energy healing, teaching, and specifically using music, which I create in my studio, which is designed to help people move quickly into different states and deeper states of consciousness. So, yes, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very exciting.
I think it's interesting to find the connection here. My connection with Tom was in May 2012, Tom. That was like 10 years ago. It's just gone like that. And I was watching one of Tom. I lived in Spain. I was married then, and I was watching one of Tom's interviews, one of his lectures, and it took me 2 days to get through it. But I sent an email saying, "Would you like to come to Spain and do a lecture?" And then he said, "Yeah." So I panicked a little bit, and then me and another friend called Tom Golding from Spain, we put this event together. Tom and his wife came over, and there's about 65 people came from different countries, and it was great and successful, and it started my interest even more. And then I asked Tom, who was doing converting his doing his audiobook, and he said nobody. So that opportunity came up, so I went and helped and produced the audiobook with him, which was an experience. And then after that, I went through my dark night of the soul, and everything went pear-shaped, as some people would say. But that was the beginning of my growth, really. And since then, I've used his work as an absolute backbone and fundamental instruction manual for my experiences, so I can put them into some context. So yeah, I mean, and thank you very much for that. It's been amazing. And Elizabeth is I think I've known Elizabeth 3 years now, and we've never met in person, but Elizabeth is, she won't mind me saying this, but she's an amazing channel, and the frequency that she works with is, I recognize as the frequency that I'm working with, and through her ability to channel information and to send healing, that's really helped my progression. And so thank you to both of you for your help and assistance, because you've saved me at least a lifetime of going down the wrong alleyways. So I've been fast-tracked. So this is how this has all kind of come together.
Thank you, Trevor. And it's been a journey for sure. Continues to be.
How is your connection? How is your connection with Tom, Elizabeth?
Okay, so I went, well, in 2001, I started having all these paranormal experiences and wound up studying Buddhism. And that led me to the Monroe Institute. And right after I went to the Monroe Institute in 2011, Thomas was lecturing in Calgary. So I had to see that. Beth Haley set that up. And I'm so glad she did, because it was phenomenal and it was riveting, and it explained a lot. It opened, I find your work, Tom, opens consciousness. Just listening, reading your work, listening to the videos, it expands your mind, and then more is possible. I find it's very mind expanding. And I had a lot of very strange experiences around that same time. And I asked you about them. One was I woke up early one morning and I was staring at you in the face. That's before I actually met you. It was just before the lectures. And I had astral traveled into some part of your reality, and you looked up like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So when I went to the lecture, I went up and apologized to you. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to break into your reality. And I remember you said, oh, there's so many parts to me. I don't know, I can't keep track of them all, or something to that effect. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember that. Of course, I've given, many of these lectures, and each time I meet, lots and lots of people, and often I hear things like this. So I do not remember that in particular. That is a long time ago, but it doesn't surprise me. That is, yes, it's just the way it is. My reality is unusual, I guess, in the sense that I don't really meditate anymore. I don't have any particular practice that I do, or equivalently, I could say that I meditate all the time. I'm in a meditation state permanently. So it's just life. And in this life, I'm connected to this, what we call the physical reality, somewhat, and I'm connected to sometimes 2 or 3 non-physical realities all at the same time, and just processing it all in parallel. So strange things happen. I live a very strange space where lots of interesting things happen. and I'm so used to the strangeness of life that it's not even strange anymore. It's just the way it is.
It's interesting you say that, because I was saying to someone a few weeks ago, what happens when the paranormal becomes the normal? A lot of the things that were paranormal to me a few years ago are just a normal day. And so the boundaries get expanded, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of realize that you've gone into this zone where normal people look at you and go, he's lost the plot there, he's out there. But that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, as you grow, Trevor, you get a larger decision space. You live in a larger reality, and people who are, let's say, just live out of their heads. That's a kind of a metaphor for our just are aware of the physical reality, that we call physical universe. They live in a very small space compared to the space that's available to them as consciousness. They're living in just the intellectual part. They're not living in the intuitive part, and that loses an awful lot of the richness of life when you just live in the intellectual part.
The reason that I kind of asked to have this podcast was that I'm kind of, over the last few years, I was lucky enough to travel quite a lot to different countries, and I'm seeing patterns in people, and there's so much pain out there at the moment, and there's so much growth as well at the same time. But I work with lots of different healers, and the healers that I work with tend to live in their own kind of shared reality. They're using lots of rituals, they're using lots of belief systems, and I just feel compelled to share my knowledge, because I used to be like that, and now I'm more open-minded to different things. So I thought some questions that would be really useful for people to be able to be inquisitive about what you both do would help people to inquire more. Because one of the first things I mention to people is when I work with them is both of your work and how it's inspired me. And they say, "Who's that? Who's that?" And I'm saying, you should know this. Really, it's going to really benefit if you learn this and know this. And I see there's so many people online, and they're just throwing information out there about different planetary systems and different beings doing this, and I'm thinking, how useful is that? How useful is it for people at this moment in time to be able to connect to themselves and to start growing in a positive, useful way? It just seems almost like an information overload. So I suppose what I really would like to do is to cut through some of the belief systems, or introduce people to new ideas and about how this ascension process or this growth spurt that's happening now on the planet is actually developing, if that makes sense to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we've got lots of questions. I remember I was sat at the breakfast table with you, Tom, and I'm thinking, God, I wish I had better questions. I don't have any questions. I had no questions. And I've got too many questions. But yeah, there's always things to learn, always things to know. Elizabeth, you've got some amazing questions. If you wanted to start things, and hopefully they will all.
Okay.
They will all. I've got them here as well if you want them, but they'll all connect in some way.
Okay. Trevor mentioned something just before this started, and I had an experience with soul contracts that I was trying to understand, and soul fragments. And one example was somebody called me. They telephoned. Two friends called me from Toronto. I'm on the East Coast in Canada, and they said, "We saw you. You're this Egyptian queen from a long time ago, thousands of years ago." And I said, "Well, that's very flattering, but no, that I don't have a past life recollection of that." They said, "No, she's you." And I convinced one of them to agree to be induced into a past life regression to understand the experience. And so I found myself in trance, in a deep state of trance, as I guided her into trance. She's just on the phone. And suddenly I'm looking down and I'm seeing her past life unfolding in front of me. And I can see the queen she's talking about. And she was the king in that past life thousands of years ago. And as I'm deep in trance, and I'm also facilitating the regression, and she's having an experience, suddenly, like it was in this room actually, through the wall comes, this lady with a headdress, the Egyptian queen, walks through the wall and comes into me. And I'm like, I just totally, and of course she's on the phone. She doesn't know what I'm going through. And then suddenly this queen is in me, and my body is making these really weird movements, Egyptian movements. And then I'm suddenly her in a past life. So my understanding now, different people that I worked with over time also had a part of this life. So that would have been 2015 maybe. And then in 2016, I encountered someone else who had a past life back to Egypt. She'd just come back from Cairo, and I was channeling all about, I didn't know she'd come back from Cairo. Anyway, turned out she had a past life, and the Egyptian queen suddenly surfaces in me and does this, all these movements, and is telling her she's my dear friend, my dear friend. You were so important to me. And she's speaking through me. And then in 2017, I was in Perth, Ontario, facilitating, I was channeling for a client. And then he's got a past life connected to that one too. And then the angels. Now that's another conversation, but we'll get there. So many things to talk about. My guides, who present themselves as angels, well, Christ presents himself and God presents himself as God. But I also have learned about the LCS, the larger consciousness system. I don't know if that's God, but I understand it could be. And so God comes through, Christ comes through, and they explain that I was so upset thousands of years ago when I was this Egyptian queen and my husband died very young. I was very upset. And the priests convinced me to drink poison. And I did. So I had a past life actually in 2011 of me as an Egyptian queen, taking poison. And these guys with wolves' heads, masks, convincing me to do that. I was totally nauseous. But I didn't know what queen I was, and I didn't realize they were jackal priests of the dead at the time. I had to. It's all unfolded. So the angel said, and this is over a span of many years, that I had, when I drank poison, a part of me split off, and so part of me was a ghost wandering for thousands of years until my two friends in Toronto saw me, and then it was like puzzle pieces coming together and reconnecting with this soul fragment who doesn't surface anymore, I find. Anyway, Thomas, I'd love to know what's your take on that one?
Well, there's multiple ways that that might happen, for multiple reasons that might happen. One of them, and probably the simplest, is just that in my model, of course, I use a lot of metaphors, and my whole model is basically constructed of metaphors that stand for necessary functions of consciousness. So I start with the larger consciousness system. That's a metaphor for source. So if you want to call that God, you can do that. If God is source to you, my larger consciousness system is a natural system, and it's still, evolving. It's not a complete system. So it's not perfect system. It's still evolving. So anyway, that's that. Now, we as pieces of this system, we are pieces of consciousness, and this is a consciousness system. So we're part of it. And as we evolve, it evolves because we're part of it. So we lower our entropy, which is another way I talk about evolution, become love. And the whole system's entropy drops a little because, we're all one. So it's in the interest of the larger conscious system to help us understand, to help us grow up, to help us see bigger pictures. Because as we see bigger pictures, we grow up. Now, that gets us to an explanation of at least the easiest and simplest explanation, and that is that the system has been giving you and others you interact with, these data streams, this information that connects. And you'll get something that will connect with somebody else, and they'll get things that connect with you, and you connect then with each other. And it has been a growing, eye-opening, mind-opening experience, from the beginning, particularly when you get just little bits of it, and then something else unravels, and oh, that's what it means, and you add to it, and the whole thing develops. And it could be just the larger consciousness system helping all of you see bigger pictures, open your mind, see things, have personal experiences that connect you. Because if you just read about it in a book, or you just get it as intellectual discussion, oh, this is a larger reality, and you have past lives and so, well, that's all intellectual, but that doesn't really open your mind so much. But when it happens to you, when it's your own experience, it's not somebody else's experience you're reading about, that really opens your mind. It's like, how could this be possible? What's going on here? And the simplest answer is the system's been feeding you this data and this information, and also with friends and other acquaintances of you that makes connections, such that all of you have grown up and had your minds pried open, and it turns you into seekers. Because once these things happen to you, you start seeking. you start going out to the internet and talking to people. Hey, this is what happened to me. And then they'll, of course, tell you what happened to them. And your whole world then goes from kind of a buttoned down materialist viewpoint to this much richer, much more exciting, much more interesting world that isn't just physical, but it's beyond the physical, all sorts of connections. All right, so that's the simple answer. The more complicated answer would be, well, all those things are just true. They happened that way. You indeed were a queen and you did take poison, and all of that could be just factual. That's just the way it was. The things that you're doing, you're pulling out of memory, and that's a factual thing. But that's a lot more complicated then, because now a whole lot more complication has to happen, to involve your friends in it and other people that you connect, and you all just happen to make these connections, and you all just happen to be in bodies at just this time, just such that you interact with each other. And you need a whole string of I don't know, accidents that all happen to go together just to make the whole thing work. So that's a lot more complex and a lot more, takes a whole lot of assumptions to prop that up. I tend to go for the simple solution. And that is that it's just a larger consciousness system helping you and others open your minds. And those others are people with whom you make connections, with whom you talk and you share. And now once you're sharing with somebody, then the system would develop new connections between you. Oh yeah, well, you were there too. And I was there, because now it's somebody that you're interacting with. So it helps both of you, and the two of you can help each other grow and see bigger pictures. So that makes it a lot easier, rather than a bunch of people who had connections, 5,000-10,000 years ago, suddenly all converging, in Canada or someplace. That's a lot more difficult process to imagine, how all that gets put together. So I tend to go for simple. One of the things that we have in physics is called Occam's razor, and basically it's the philosophy that if you have multiple explanations about something that is fundamental, then the one that is most likely to be true is the one that is simplest, has the fewest assumptions, and is the, I should say, most simple and most elegant explanation with the fewest assumptions. That doesn't mean that one has to be true. It just means that that one's more likely true than the ones that are more complex and more convoluted and have more assumptions in them. So that's why I tend to go that way. So that's what I think the whole business would be about. An experience. Life is a series of experiences. And we come here and we have experiences, and these experiences open our minds if we're ready. If we're not ready, we don't have those experiences. If we're not ready, we've never had anything intuitive happen to us at all. We've never done anything paranormal, and we kind of think that probably doesn't even exist. That's because we're not ready. We're not open. Because even if something like that happened to us, we'd deny it. We'd just pretend it didn't happen, or we'd keep it a secret so that people wouldn't think we were insane. So people who are ready, and people who are ready are generally people who have already been around the incarnation circuit enough times that they're not starting at the beginning. They're already open, but they have to re-own it. Every time they have to start and re-own it. So the system tends to give those people these little opportunities, and they're ready. And as soon as those things happen, they latch onto it and say, well, what's that all about? I don't know. But that was my experience. And then, a day or a month or a year later, they run into somebody that connects with that. And then the two of them help each other grow because of their experiences and how they connect. And then they start searching, and then they start finding out new things and bigger ideas and making connections. And that's what growing up is. It's what having a bigger perspective on life, on reasons why, And I think if you look back on it, you find that all those experiences you had, not just these that were kind of maybe a little wilder than others, but all the experiences you have had in the paranormal side of things have all been growing experiences. They've all helped you open your mind, and they've helped you understand bigger pictures. And it's all been part of your learning process. Well, the LCS supports that, because as we grow, it grows. As we learn, it learns. So I hear thousands of people tell me about all the strange things that they've had and experiences they have. And, another aspect to this is that we tend to think in terms of metaphors, particularly if we're doing telepathic communications, not reading a book, which is all linear, letters make words, words make sentences, and it's a logical linear process. But telepathic processes, you just get all the information all at once. You don't read it. It doesn't dribble in, word by word. It's just, you're there. I've got it. I understand it. It happens all in a big chunk. That's the way telepathy works. And that happens typically with metaphor. So many of the things that we see and experience, we tend to take a lot of it very literally, when most of the time it's really metaphorical. Now, dreams are the same way. Your dreams aren't generally literal. Oh, I met this little girl in my dream and she was Susie, and we, went off and did this. And it's usually not really about a little girl named Susie. That's just a metaphor for, something larger, something that's a part of you, something that you're connecting to. And a lot of our experiences through the intuitive side are like that, because when you get information all at once in just a big lump, it can't be linear, it can't be linearly strung out in letters and words. It's all at once. And metaphors are like that. Metaphor, you just, you see the metaphor, or you hear the metaphor, and suddenly a whole lot of meaning just kind of pops in your mind for it. So dreams tend to be metaphorical, but our experiences in the intuitive side, which is all the paranormal things, all happen on the intuitive side. None of them happen on the intellectual side. Matter of fact, the intellectual side gets in the way and prevents it from happening. So what's one of the first lessons we learn is you let the intellect go and stop judging it and analyzing it and comparing it. You just experience it. And then you, instead of asking, was that real? You say, well, I don't know, maybe. Let's find out. Where does it go? You see, so you give up the, is it real? And more of it, is it useful? Does it lead someplace? Am I learning? And those are some of the first basic lessons that everybody gets. So I would say, Elizabeth, that's kind of the root of what's going on there, is that it's part of the experiences that you've had that have led you to growing up and becoming love and caring about people, and all the things that goes with it, being less self-centered, having a larger perspective. It all comes together out of that cracking open your mind to get past the materialist paradigm where it's you against everybody else, that kind of a thinking, control, power, force is how the world works. And you need to outgrow that. And these experiences help us do that.
Okay.
Thank you. That was very, I was great. Great. You're so wise, Tom. Grateful. Thank you. I was just thinking of one other scenario is stepping into consciousness, because one scenario you mentioned is possibly being or having had a past life.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is the basic suggestion you had. And then I thought, to what extent can we step in to any experience we choose, any history we choose?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. And if there's a lesson in there for us by assuming the role of any particular character, then we can do that. We can just assume that role. And we have people who use past life regression as a tool, for helping people deal with their lives, and it works regardless of whether those past life regressions are actual past lives or not. That's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter, you see? So it's not like, well, if they weren't really past lives, there was something else going on, then that would, that would mess it all up or it wouldn't work. No, it's not like that. So somebody comes in and they have a problem, they have some sort of fixation or something else that's bothering them, and they do a past life regression, and they find out that they were this and that explains it. Well, that has therapeutic value because now they see the source, and the source is beyond their control, and it's not about them being defective, it's about this experience that they had, you see? And suddenly that allows them to change themselves because they were all wound up over themselves being defective. And that was keeping them from moving forward. And that gives them a way of looking at what's, who they are and what they are in a bigger picture. Now, does it really matter that this person was the Queen of Sheba or the king of, whatever? No, it doesn't really matter if that's true or not. It's something that helps people and helps them grow. Now, could it have been that they might have been that? Yeah, they could have been the king of Siam or whatever. It's possible, but it doesn't matter. You see, it's irrelevant. It's not really important. But yes, you can go back, and if it's something that you need, an experience you need that helps you put things together and understand a little better, then you can drop into any kind of historical or non-historical, something that just is totally not part of this reality at all. You can drop into those experiences very easily and live those, connect to them, and now they're helpful for you. And typically that's the larger conscious system that facilitates that because it knows you and what you need and what kind of little push or little nudge would open you up some more, would help you out. And it can see to it that you get that nudge, that things just come together and that thing just happens to show up for you, that now you can interact with it. So a lot of times, if we look back at it, we could say, well, it's all, it's very miraculous because I keep getting these things that are really growth inspiring things for me. I don't go through a lot of stuff that falls flat. I don't get a lot of things that, well, I don't know what to do with that. That's kind of meaningless. You don't get a lot of that. Almost everything you get is something that is pertinent to your growth. Oh my, what luck. We are very lucky people that we're always just, the things we get are just things that we need. You see? So to me, its simpler explanation is that that's being given to you because you're ready for it. You're open to it. And it's something that you could use to help you grow. Now, you could ignore it and you could not pay any attention to it. And that's your choice. You have free will. You don't have to take hold of it, but it's there, if you want to. So yes, it's, you'd think if you were just out having random experiences, meeting random people, you'd have to go through a lot of experiences in people before you'd find one that really resonated and really, opened you up. But almost everyone you have really resonates and opens you up. So it kind of makes you think that these experiences are kind of handpicked for you. They're not just random experiences that you just happen to, be this or be that. That's something that was valuable.
Okay.
That is such a good point. Thank you. Yes, it was all relevant. When you look back, when I look back, everything was meaningful and it led me in a certain direction and connected me to certain people. And it was a path that unfolded as a result. One thing led to another and led me to you and then led me to somewhere else. So it keeps going.
Yeah, what I found that if you eventually you begin to take the bigger picture to where it doesn't really matter so much what happens. What matters is what can you learn from it? And then you kind of have this bigger picture. And then the things that happen to you become more and more direct. In other words, in the beginning, when something's indirect, is you are, this person or that person, or you meet somebody which has the connection, and all of that's kind of indirect. Everybody gets excited about it. But eventually, you don't get so much of that anymore as you get just a direct connection with source. And you just learn, and you just, you get information as you need it, and it all works real well. And you don't need a lot of trappings that kind of are attractive and suck you in and pull you into it. That's kind of in the beginning, mostly. Eventually, you kind of grow out of that, and you just, you kind of skip all the details and go right to the kind of the bottom line more and more often. And then you find out that all that stuff that was happening to you doesn't really happen so much anymore, but it doesn't matter because you've kind of outgrown it and you move past it and you don't need all that.
You just basically described my life because it's all very simple now. It's just channel, get the information, channel, heal, clear.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the questions I had that also combines with one of Elizabeth's questions, when I had my awakening 8 years ago, it was through a plant medicine called ayahuasca, which I no longer do, but I know a lot of people still do that. And it was the most phenomenal night of my life. It was literally, this voice spoke through me, vibrated my vocal cords, and said, "This is sacred. This is a gift. You will be guided." And then I saw this symbol, which is my logo, on my hand. And then all this energy came in this way for like 4 hours. It was just, and since then I've had a channeling session with Elizabeth, and it was saying it was an activation, which is similar to what you've just said, as opposed to an awakening. It was a reactivation. So this gift has become the ability to detect energy blockages in people's system, whether they're standing in front of me or away. And like Elizabeth does, just send the consciousness up, and then I can sense that information. So, and it's getting stronger. The more I clear, the more it's getting stronger. So the word, and I think when I saw you at the Indian workshop, I asked this question, but it's worth asking again with the additional part that Elizabeth added. And that is, when they say this is sacred, and you said, well, there's nothing is sacred. And Elizabeth has added this, and have you ever asked to show reverence to God, the larger conscious system, or any other higher being? So that's the question. Have you ever had to do that? And is anything sacred?
Well, it's that same thing. Do I meditate always, or do I not meditate at all? I would say that everything's sacred or nothing's sacred, and that they're both the same. Everything's sacred in the sense that everything's important. Everything has potential. Everything can grow and become more than what it is. Everything is a potential in progress. So from that viewpoint, everything's important and significant. Now, sacred is maybe a special word besides important, but I would say that everything is a part of source. Okay, if you want to call source God, then it's a part of God, but everything is a part of source, just like we are. Okay, now, does that make everything sacred? That makes everything conscious sacred anyway. Well, it might, if you want to put it that way, but you could also say that nothing's sacred. We're all just pieces of consciousness, part of this system that's evolving and chugging along its way, becoming love, lowering its entropy and continuing to exist. And you can see it from that framework too, then nothing's sacred. But I don't see any incompatibility with both of those. To me, they're all the same. They're just different ways of looking at the same thing. Now, what happened to you, Trevor, is that you are not an easy case for the system to get you going. All right. You had that potential, but you were kind of stuck. And it took a stick of dynamite to blow up, and that dynamite, of course, was ayahuasca. It took something that was dramatic, a dramatic kick in the pants, if you will, in order to launch your growth.
Mhm.
And with that came some of that dark night of the soul you were talking about. You had to master it. You couldn't just be swallowed. You had to own it.
Yeah.
You had to, grow into that. But it took something rather dramatic to get you going, to get you started, that was the drug experience for you. And when it said this is sacred, then I'd say that I would interpret that word sacred as this is important. This is fundamental. This is
Right.
the core. This is,
Yeah.
this is what you are. And not so much sacred from we should all fall down and, kneel and pray kind of sacred. It's more, this is the essence. This is what's important.
And
that's why I would say that.
And if you had to ever show reverence to God or beings while you've been in the other realities?
No, never.
So I did have an experience. I was being trained by the beings that I see as angels. I've seen them. I see them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were training me for 6 months to heal, to clear. They were working with me. It was a lot of hypnotic processes, and they would tell me to go into trance, and suddenly I'd be in a past life, or I'd be in the life between lifetimes, or they'd pull me through some kind of ritual. But one more, and you were one of the people that initially, Tom said, suggested strongly to become vegetarian or vegan. And it took me a while, but eventually I did. And then the angels were adamant, like no meat, no sugar, no caffeine, no alcohol. And one morning I was in this process, which was 6 months, I found out later, after the fact that it would be 6 months of being in trance the whole time. And they told me to repolarize my food for the highest good. And I would just ask the archangels, as I was trained, to repolarize my food for the highest good, make it happy food.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly my face was being pushed into my cereal bowl, and I dodged, and I was being pushed all the way down to the ground. And I found myself prostrating on the ground with my forehead touching the floor. And they said, "You're not reverent." And I said, no, I'm reverent. And they said, no, you're not. And I said, I was arguing with the higher beings. They said, "You're not reverent to God. And we want you to say the Lord's Prayer thrice in the morning, thrice at night, prostrating." I've done that ever since. So for whatever reason, like, I really appreciate what you've said and I agree with it. But at the same time, I've had a slightly different experience where I was physically pushed into reverence for God, or the larger consciousness system, whatever that is. Yeah. So I find that interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very interesting. No, Trevor, I've never run into a situation where reverence was expected or required, either one, or even insinuated. But I think that because of the culture we grow up in, and because of it's also because of the culture that we grow up in, well, there's two things that happen. One, we tend to take on a religious perspective because it's part of our culture. And for us, that's mostly a Christian perspective. And in that sense, then we're part of the little people, and God is the big thing, and reverence is an important part of that connection. Your connection to source has to be one of reverence, surrendering yourself and reverence. And I think we take that in. We have another thing, and we take it in, and it becomes part of our core beliefs. And another thing that's part of our core beliefs is that we're small. We're not really that important. We're little. We're not terribly significant on our own. And when we feel small and insignificant and, I don't know, inadequate, we could say all those words, but when you feel that way, then you have a tendency to want to look for something that is in charge, something that is more powerful, the greater source, because I'm little and small, there must be this greater source that's in charge. And if you have that as part of your belief system, that there is something that is much greater than you, which there is, the larger conscious system, but that then you should relate to that in a reverent way, that you should, bow down to it, that you should do that kind of, I don't know, what's the word? Anyway, you know what I mean, that you should kind of prostrate yourself in front of it, that kind of a thing. And I think that's just part of our culture that we pick up. And because that's part of our belief systems, then when we get that connection to source and we are interacting with those things that are more fundamental and more evolved than we are, we kind of have this knee-jerk idea that we need to be reverent. We need to kind of bow down and be humble. But I've never found that kind of, humility is required, yes, absolutely, as far as, the antidote to ego is humility. Humility is a very good thing. But you have free will. And your free will is always your choice. And nobody, even the larger conscious system, will not override your free will. You have to grow up by your own choices, not just by following what somebody says. So that's the problem with reverence. If reverence is just humility, well, that's good. If reverence is, yes, sir, I'll do whatever you say, you see, that's abrogating your free will. And that won't help you grow up. Even if that person that's telling you what you should do is giving you good advice, it doesn't matter. If you're just following advice, you're not growing up. You may be acting better, you may be behaving more civilly, but you're not growing up unless it's your choice to be that way, not you're being that way because you've been told to be that way. You see? So in that way, nothing in the system, including the larger conscious system itself, should ever impose anything on you, should ever require you to think this or do that, because that's then telling you what to do. That's abrogating your free will. If you feel very humble, then it's because you feel humble, not because you think it's the right thing to do is to prostrate yourself in next to something that is much more evolved than you are. So that's why I think I don't run into that, because in my mind, I may be something very small in this larger reality. I'm just a tiny little speck of something, but I have free will, because without free will, I can't grow up. I can't evolve. I can't become any more than I am already. Without that free will, without it being my choice to change myself to be more. So in that case, I've never felt the need to be reverent, to anything or anyone, including the larger consciousness system. We're all pieces of consciousness. We're all here to grow up. And we all do stupid things sometimes. We all make huge mistakes sometimes. But that's just part of the learning process. That's nothing to really be ashamed of. So you do things and you hurt people, or you take advantage, or it's your ego, and it's your, you do those kinds of things. Well, that's how we learn. We learn by taking our best shot. We make choices, and then we look and see how it comes out. And if it doesn't come out so good, we think, why not? What did I get wrong? What could I have done better? And how could I have done it better? And then we grow up, we change ourselves. So I've never felt that sort of thing, because as a piece of consciousness, I have free will, and there isn't anything that needs me or wants me to give up that free will and just do something because I'm told, or because that's the right thing to do, or because it's their suggestion. It's something that I have to choose who I am and where I'm going and what I become.
That's an
So
interesting.
that's kind of how I see that.
It's an interesting perspective because I can see both sides of that. You know, if you're
Yeah.
being guided by this higher energy and saying, "Look, we want you to do this," you can't say, well, "No, I'm not going to do that." So it's. How do you feel about that, Elizabeth?
Well, I wasn't given a choice. It was either FaceTime and cereal. So it could have been,
Could have been.
Tom, I don't know, maybe because I was in training.
Mhm.
It took about 6 months before I wasn't, maybe even a year before I wasn't meddled with sometimes by, when you're an open channel, things can walk in, right? So
Mhm.
there might have been someone who took advantage in that moment and
Yes.
said, bow down.
Well, like a
I've been
serial killer,
perplexed about it,
like a serial killer.
like the
Yeah.
pun
Yeah.
there.
No,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Some entity may have just been fooling with you and doing those sorts of things, because any entity that is of quality is not going to try to overrun your free will and tell you to do this, do that. You need to get down on your knees. You need to touch the floor with your forehead. You need to, you know, change your attitude. You won't get that. You will get, you know, you will get things that will startle you, and you will get things that will give you ideas. But if somebody comes to me and says, well, what you need to do is this, my idea is maybe, I'll think about it and I'll see whether I think that's on my path to do it. Because if it is on my path and it's growing, then I'll do it because I made the choice to do it. And if I don't think it is, and even if I'm wrong and it is, and I just don't think it is, then I have to not do it because it's not my choice. Just doing it because you're told carries no power. There's no growth in that. So I would think, Elizabeth, that some entity came in and was just a little pushy with you, maybe as a test, just to see whether or not you would do that, or whether you would stand up and say, no, you can't, I don't need to do that. Sometimes we get tested. But that would be, you'd have to know whether that was the case, whether they were just seeing whether you were going to exert your free will or whether you would let somebody push you around and tell you what you needed to do. And if you asserted your free will, then maybe that would be the right answer and you would have gone this direction. But if you weren't quite ready for that, you didn't have that strength yet, you'd go in another direction to build that strength. It could have been that kind of thing.
Well, I have benefited from the practice. It is a practice, and it's a good message, and I have totally benefited from it. So I still do it. At the same time, you're right. For about 12 months, every now and then, if my mood fluctuated, and I was I won't get into the story, but I heard two booming voices telling me I was going straight to where, because I had tampered with something. I channeled something and it was a little too much. So I edited the channeling, and then suddenly these booming voices said, that's it, you're going straight to hell. And at first I was like, what? And then I went way up to the angelic realm, what I call the angelic realm. And they said, Elizabeth, two mischievous beings have come into your energy. Like, no, that's not us. And you're right, it's all love. It's always for your highest good. If anything's not for your highest good, you should be suspicious. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But I still show reference. So
yeah, but see, there's nothing wrong with that. And that we have things that we do, rituals that we do, just habits that we do. There's nothing wrong with that because they become meditations in themselves. The ritual becomes a meditation. So you go through your ritual and you do whatever you do. And as you do that, you instantly get into that altered state. You make a connection, and it just happens to be another form of meditation, another way of making connections. So it's not that there's anything particularly wrong with it. It's fine, and it's something that works for you. You should continue to do it. You see, we use tools. We make up tools for ourselves, and it not only could be a being comes in and does that, but it could be your own belief, or your own lack of self-confidence, or your own lack of self-worth, or your own sense of personal power. If you feel small and as a little thing with this big thing, then you just might take that position because that feels better. That feels more right to you, to be on your knees, say. It feels more humble, and that helps you then connect. Well, that makes getting on your knees a tool that you use to get a better connection. Well, okay, that's not like that's a bad thing to do. I would just assert it's an unnecessary thing to do. You can make that same connection other ways. But if your way is to get down on your knees, then that's your way. And it's not a wrong way. It's just your way. Now, you wouldn't have to have developed that particular tool. You could have developed some other tool. And we are tool users. We humans, we develop all kinds of tools and rituals for ourselves that help us focus our intent the way we want to focus it. So I would say, I would never tell you, oh, you should change that. Not at all. Whether it's necessary or not isn't the point. The point is, does it work? Is it helpful? Do you feel good about it? And if all those answers are yes, then by all means, continue it, unless you get into a place where you can't anymore because you're someplace or in some situation where that just isn't practical. Well, then you can get to that same space without it. In other words, it's not a necessary process that you're going through. It's just a chosen process. And nothing wrong with processes.
Cool.
Yeah, I find, I wonder about the stream of Christ consciousness and all of these people who were leaders like Jesus and all these teachers and all these practices, Buddhist practices, Hindu practices, that these teachers are still available in the non-physical. And so these practices are still available. These beliefs are still available. I think it's all available, all accessible. And as you've written in some of your work, you have a URL, right? I have my own identification or soul signature, whatever you want to call it. And so I can probably connect to all of those beings that I probably studied with or worked with or encountered or am aware of, and wind up in that flow of in my case, Christ consciousness. I just wonder how it comes through sometimes.
Yeah, that's, look at all of that as metaphorical in the sense that, yes, everything, all the teachers, all the people that aren't teachers, all the maids and butlers as well as all the teachers, they're all part of that database. It's all there in that information. It's all there. Now, even the teachers, even the ones that were very evolved, they go on too. They go on and do other things. They don't just hang around in case you have a need for them. So it's not like that. But all that information's there. And anytime that you are learning and growing, if you take a certain path, okay, let's say you decide to connect with the, Tibetan Buddhist masters, something like that. I don't know. I'm just making that up, but if you come up with something that you particularly want to connect with, or maybe Jesus or whatever, you can do that. As you put that vibe out there, the larger consciousness system is going to pick up on that, and it's going to feed you that information that you need through that channel. If you happen to be, say, more Eastern than Western, you probably have in your theology ancestors. Your ancestors are very important to you, and your ancestors talk to you, and they can provide advice, and they can provide help and energy and all sorts of things. And you may then go to a great grandmother or a grandfather or somebody and get that same sort of thing. And they will talk to you and give you information. So the system can use any metaphor it likes to connect with you. So what's important, that if what connects to you is Jesus because you're a Christian, then if you like, your training, your interaction, your getting questions answered can be straight from Jesus, if that's what you like, because that's a pathway by which you will more likely accept and internalize the information. The system has to find ways that you will accept. If the system wanted to tell you something that was important to your growth and it came on as a three-headed chicken, and here's this little chicken with three heads and it's talking to you, well, you wouldn't pay any attention to it. You'd throw it out and say, that's ridiculous. Where did that come from? And you'd throw it away. But if it comes as Jesus, or if it comes as a monk, that you recognize from someplace, or if you start by going through to the Tibetan monastery of the 1800s and you go back into that time, you can connect to any of that you want. It's all available because it's all in the database, and all the system does is interact with you through that context. So it'll all be in perfect context, names, places, everything, the perfect context of that Tibetan Buddhist or Jesus or Mary or, the angels or whatever. So in your mind, the angels are a metaphor for something that's not quite God, but not quite here either. It's the in-between space, maybe. I'm not sure, but whatever it is a metaphor for you, whatever that is, then you can gather information from that source. So if you have things broken up into lots of different subcategories and levels, and I've seen people that have like 57 levels, sort of like Heinz has different kinds of beans. You have 57 levels of hierarchy within the spiritual realm. Well, they have given each level a particular set of capabilities and things, just like the 8 or the 7 chakras. Each one stands for certain things. Well, those are just metaphors. There are no chakras. There's nothing physical there. Why did the Zen Buddhists not have chakras? But the Hindus do. Well, it's not because one of them's right and one of them's wrong. It's the chakras are metaphors, ways that people can talk about things that are important, ways that they can connect, and tools that they can use to connect to certain things. So it's a tool set, but so are all the masters and all the gurus and Jesus and all the rest of those now. They are available to us to get instruction, to get information from them, to interact with them. It's all there. And basically, we're interacting with the larger consciousness system through that constraint of that person's thoughts, their minds, who they are, things they did, their experiences. All of that is captured in the databases, and the system can work with that. So see, otherwise, you'd have to have poor Jesus hanging around talking to people, all day long. Like, he's sitting in his big phone bank, and this phone rings and he picks it up. Jesus here, how can I help you? And so that's happening all over the world, probably 100,000 times a day. He has to make all those connections, and that's his job now, is to answer the phone. Well, it doesn't work like that. He moves on. He's still growing. He's still becoming, just like the system is. He's doing other things, other places, or here, or whatever. So,
or recruiting some of us, because all of this has come through shock. When I least expected, Jesus showing up looking more real than you and me. That the big computer, if it generated Jesus, it was not what I expected, and it was like, he's more real. And the experiences of the angels, they were more real than the physical reality. But it's probably what you were saying. I needed that, or they needed me to wake up. They needed to shock me into service, into all of this, because the experiences are so real.
They are real. I'm not saying they're not real. They're as real gets. Real is information. And when you get this in your data stream, what you're aware of is you're getting information, you're getting data, and that's what you're aware of. And if the way to help wake you up and get you going and get you energized and growing is to show up as angels or Jesus or whatever, that's what's going to come. And if that's in your data stream, then it's just as real as, the room that you're sitting in, just as real as, if we were sitting face to face, it is just as real as that. All of that is just information. And this is information too. And it's not because you anticipated it or expected it. It's because you needed it. It's because that's what it would take to get you motivated to growing. Just like Trevor also was a hard case. He needed something that was a real powerful smack, a real powerful kick in the pants to get him going. Otherwise, he was just going to dawdle, around where he was. He wasn't going to go there. He needed something to shock him. And you maybe needed something to shock you too. Grab your attention, give you the incentive to move in this direction. And if what that took was a personal relationship to angels, then that's what you got. You'll get a personal relationship to angels. And if it's a very specific angel with specific, ideas and abilities and a history, you'll get all that history. You'll get everything that's there in the database. So see, that simplifies it. Instead of having all of this strange stuff that's all going on all over the place for you and similar kinds of things for other people, it's a lot more simple just to say, well, it's the larger consciousness system giving us what we need in order to help us grow up. And everything's there in the database. Yes, nothing's lost. So all of that is possible. And it's as real gets. It's not that those angels are fake angels or pretend angels. It's data in your data stream, and nothing is more real than that. Your body is just data in a data stream. So it's as real as you are.
One of the things that's I'm noticing, and it's fascinating, both the way I work and Elizabeth works, and I use frequency, the metaphor frequency, because it helps me understand things easier. And it's when I work with someone, I've noticed that first they come, they lie there or they're from a distance, and it's about clearing their energy field, which we know is a metaphor. And my hand goes straight to the chakras, which we know don't exist, but there's a part of me believes they do. So there's a part of me that believes that by tapping into that metaphor that I can access that. And that's something that I'm not consciously aware of, but it's unconsciously. So that's the process. And then the next process is they start moving. This could be a couple of sessions in, because they're responding to the frequency. They're more attentive. They can receive the frequency. And then eventually that turns into a twitch. They start doing the same hand movements as me. And it's like they're downloading the program. And so you can have a room full of people, all with blind. I've done tests. I'm always a skeptic as well. And they've been activated, as I call it. You put the blindfolds on. As soon as you bring the energy in, they'll start vibrating. They're receiving that signal. And part of this is, after a certain while as well, we start using a thing called light language, which I don't know if you're familiar with. The belief is that this light language is used by different star seeds, different beings from different planets, and there are lots of different types of light language, and there's lots of different types of dialects, and there's people that can understand it fluently. But it's a powerful tool when you bring the light language just comes through as a vibration, and then it clears. It brings a packet of information through. So Elizabeth and myself do this angelic language, so that the frequency moves the hands. We don't have any real control. The other option, the other way it presents itself is this is light language. Just came through a few weeks ago. And then I got a short 1-minute video. These are a couple of friends of mine, and these are different dialects.
Nai waitu ai pi pulale ka maishti ihti ai kate. Niu kai pu ai kenekla e, shuwe papai mueche ikalai kate. Nai onoshtu oi ka mai uahei luaka i e. Nai oishti ipli uhti amuwe pu achte ikale. Joa hepli ihti a, neowai ka pe ikiklie. Nai wikle eple o bashti bi wahetelelai kete. Noi mai keminai kushtu uishti be kwa telelei ka aiwahe. Nai oshtu.
Kiri emikai eshinikuki, armakai emikoki shinikuki, taemikaya, ai turiki eki nikuki. Trust, turi emikai, turi eshinikuki, turi.
Ashita ashitokon yanama, ita aroto kishiti yamata kisha.
Got emotional.
Sani matokesha.
Well, okay, let me kind of address all these things, the angels and the language and all the rest of it. If consciousness is a very abstract thing, right? It's a very abstract concept, consciousness. How heavy is consciousness? How much room does it take? What's its volume and weight? And it doesn't have any of that. It's non-physical. It's a non-physical thing. Our physical thing, what we call physical, is a virtual reality that we're in. It's a data stream we get that makes this seem like it's physical. Okay. Now, if we're going to talk about consciousness, and we're going to talk about spirit, and we're going to talk about becoming love and growing up and bigger pictures and all that sort of thing, connecting, if we just leave it at the abstract end, we don't have anything to say. We don't have any way to discuss it. We don't have any way to talk about it. So what do we do? Because it's non-physical. It's spiritual. So what do? We start making metaphors. We start making tools. We start making processes. And by doing that, it enables us to talk about it. It enables us to share it. You see, so all of our sharing, all of our tools that we use are things that we make up in order to help us express how we feel, the things that we're getting, the growth that we're having, the stuff, where it's coming from. That's why we have to have chakras. Not because chakras are fundamental in any way, but they help break up all the concepts into 7 different categories, and each category related to the body. Well, everybody has a body, so this makes it more concrete. So you take something that is very abstract, connect it to something in the body, now it's more concrete, and people can deal with it. They can interact with the information. They don't have to just, here's all the truth. It's all this one big abstract thing. Go. Well, you can't go. You don't know what to do with it. You can't explain it. You can't connect. You can't describe it. So we make these tools that work. Mm-hmm. Look at all the various healing modalities. There's hundreds of them. Quantum touch, and I don't know, that's just one name that jumps in my mind, but there's hundreds of different healing modalities. Reiki, on and on and on. Well, are each one of these, a unique truth that, works in this special way? No, all of them are different tools. They're different metaphors. They're different ways of putting the problem and connecting with our language, be it English or French or Spanish or whatever our language is. We make tools up in our language so that now we can talk to each other about it. Otherwise, it's beyond language. It's beyond our putting it into verbs and nouns and adjectives. So we make these things up, and these become our tools. So now I'm a healer, and I use my energy bar tool to shine a bright white light and burn away all the black stuff, which I have given a metaphor as being the bad stuff. Black stuff is the bad stuff. White stuff, white light is the good stuff. So I take my white light and get rid of all the bad stuff. That's just a metaphor that I've created in my mind that says my intent now is to get rid of the black stuff, which is to get rid of the unhealthy stuff. That's my intent. But I do that by making a metaphor for black stuff is a metaphor for unhealthy. So white is a metaphor for healthy and good. So now instead of me just saying, okay, disease, go away and be healthy, because I can't do that, because little old Tom, he couldn't do that. That's like magic, you know? Oh, bad stuff, go away. But I can take my energy bar tool and my light and I can burn that black stuff, because that's something I can do. So you see, that's a tool. And that tool allows me to heal. And if I don't have that tool, I can't heal, because I don't have the confidence or the belief that I can just do it. I have to have some way, some process to go through to do it, some connection. So all of these things, Trevor, are part of the tools that we make up in order to communicate. And we learn them just by trial and error. Things happen and they work, and other people get them. And what you get is a data stream. And you have this language. It all just comes to you. It just flows out through you. And everybody else, well, they connect with it too. It's the method that you're using, okay? And the people get into it. Remember, all consciousnesses are netted. They're all netted together. So everybody in that room with you is netted with you, okay? And they've all kind of opened themselves up to your metaphors and the way you do things and what things mean to you. Yeah. And they're accepting that. And you're leading that. They're getting stuff. They're connected to you. You're connected to them. The larger conscious system is feeding all of you this stuff in the form of that metaphor, the metaphors that you have. Now you'll find that, holy rollers get out and roll around in the aisles of church and talk in tongues too. But they probably don't do it with the same. It's a similar thing, but not the same metaphors at all. They're in rapture for some reason or another, but that's not the same. But it's just that we express ourselves in language, so that language becomes part of our tool set. That's natural. Just like Elizabeth expresses her humility in terms of I don't know, I guess it's not praying, but something like that, showing her humility and her sense of connection to it. So all of these things are metaphors. I could just as easily say that black stuff is healthy and that white stuff is the bad stuff. And now I got to use that black to cover up all that nasty white, and it would work just as well. There's nothing about light. There is no light. Light's a metaphor. Yeah. It's just my intent is what is the active ingredient, and I use these tools to focus my intent. Now, you and your group, you have intentions. You're trying to grow spiritually. You're trying to get bigger pictures. You're trying to become love. And everybody's doing that. And you can set up any kind of structure you want. It wouldn't matter. Set up any sort of structure you want. You could all pray to the magic teddy bear, and you could bring in this little brown fuzzy teddy bear and set him up on a little pedestal.
I tell them that.
Set him up on a little pedestal, and that's the magic teddy bear. And, the Lord works through that teddy bear, and you could all do that, and it would work. You see, because the point isn't the metaphor you're using. The point is the feeling and the connection you're making with the people and how their intent is and what their intention for. If their intention is to grow up, to be more spiritual, to connect to the non-physical, connect to consciousness, then you can use any metaphors you want, and they will work, because they're just tools to help focus an intention toward a particular end, which is growing up, becoming love. Yeah. So they're just tools. The angels are tools for Elizabeth, and they're part of the way she configures her world in the non-physical. That's part of her configuration, and it's an important part of her configuration. So they work, and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. And if Elizabeth just said, if I said, Elizabeth, no more angels, no more bowing down, no more doing anything, get rid of all that stuff. You see, that would be a horrible thing to tell her, because it'd just take all her tools away. And now she'd have to invent new tools. And that would be very distressing for her, because she has these things she's comfortable with and she's used to. And she could start a class, and the class could all be about, developing your angels. And everybody in the class would have angels, and they would all talk and connect to their angels, and it would work. So we need the metaphor in order to communicate, in order to focus our intents, in order to even do something, think something. We need the metaphors, because otherwise we just have this non-physical abstraction that we can't work with. We make angels, we make languages, we make light, we make we make chakras, we make all this stuff up in order to give us tools to help us grow, piece at a time. The angels, they do their part. God does his part, and other things do their part. And the light energy bar tool does its part, and the black stuff representing the evil does its part, and they all play their part. And that's how we develop. And every religion and every healing modality and whatever has its own tool sets. And those tool sets all work as long as people connect to them. And that's why some people really like this metaphor. Or they like Reiki. They like those metaphors. And some people don't, because the metaphor has to really talk to you. It has to be a metaphor that you connect with. It can't be a metaphor that just doesn't resonate with you. So with Elizabeth, she resonates with angels. And that's something that resonates with her. It feels right. So she uses that. And that's good that she used that. Otherwise, how could she connect with that energy, with that source, with that thing without her angels? You see, so it fills a need for her to put it into a perspective with which she can deal with it. It makes it a little more concrete for her to deal with, rather than just this big thing that is totally undescribable. How can you deal with that? Well, you can if you turn it into God and angels and devils and whatever else, and you make up some rules and give it some levels, and you can put all that stuff in it. Now you've got a process by which you can work, and you can help other people work as they learn your process. So I was thinking these things are tools, and tools does not mean fake. Tools does not mean not real. Tools are just ways that we express things that make sense to us, that we resonate with, that talks to us, and they represent the ideals that we're trying to connect with.
I can see Elizabeth's wanting to ask something
there. Sorry. I was really happy with Buddha. I was not expecting Jesus. I was doing just fine. And so I did not see Jesus coming through until he was right there.
Yeah.
So these shocks, do you think, Tom, in your experience, soul contracts? Like, my understanding from Jesus when he showed up is that I had begun something a long time ago, and now I had to finish it. I wasn't done yet. And so that's why I got pulled on this path. And he showed me books I had written in other lifetimes, and all these other lifetimes that I had unfinished business and unfinished teachings, I guess. So that it's like I had all these lifetimes that were on a certain path, and now it's time to pony up, to finish the work, finish the job. Have you had that experience or heard of that experience?
No, I have not had that experience. In some aspects, I guess, yes. But, that's a context. All of that provides context for what you're doing and why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? Oh, because I started it, and it's something that I need to continue to work on. And how did I know that? Well, Jesus came and explained it all to me. So what it does is it gives what you're feeling and your growth. It gives you context in some kind of like a physical form, even a form in time and in space. So you need that, otherwise you can't think about it. Now, have I, started things that I had do over lifetimes? Yes, I can tell you the last 2 incarnations that I had was doing things that were preparing me for this one. It was just, preparatory. Well, you have to do it. Like I say, you have to make the choices. You have to live it. You can't just talk about it or think about it. You have to live it. So I can see the last two, I was basically getting myself ready for this. And maybe this is getting myself ready for something else. You know, it's hard to say. You know, every one looks like it's the last one. It's the end, right? It's the goal, but not necessarily. This may just be getting ready for the next thing. Or that may just be putting context into my experience. You see, we need context. Where does it come from? Why should I do this? Where did it start? Where's it going? Well, that makes it more real for us if we have context that we can put it in. Oh, this is work that I started and I have to finish it, and they showed me this, and all that puts it into nice context. Now, what you're actually going to do is grow, evolve, and become more. That's what you're doing. But you need context to put it into so that it makes sense to you, so that your rational mind can rationalize it and put it in this, this sequence of things. So that's why we do that. And why Jesus? Why not Buddha? Well, I don't know. It's probably because you grew up in a culture that was Jesus dominated. Probably. I don't know. There's lots of things that stick in us from when we were 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years old. They just stick in there, and they jump out at us, when we need them. So that's probably why Jesus. And sometimes we need something surprising just to convince ourselves that we didn't make it up. Oh, I never would have come up with Jesus. I would have had, the Buddha or some other Zen master or something, because that's what I'm into. So I know that must not come from me. It must be outside of me because it's unexpected. It's surprising. Well, we like surprises because that makes it seem more real. We do those things because we have to, in other words, we have to believe in the metaphor. We have to take it seriously. Otherwise, the metaphor doesn't work. If you don't take it seriously, it doesn't work. So you have to take it seriously. It's not just, it's not, oh, this is just a metaphor. You have to take the metaphor seriously, or the metaphor won't work for you. And then you'll have to find some other metaphor that you do take seriously. But that's why certain metaphors work better for certain people. And that is, every metaphor they are not all equally such that you can take them seriously. Some metaphors just going to make you snicker. They're just not metaphors that you can use. Yeah. So we need lots of different kinds of metaphors. And the ones that talk to you, the ones that resonate with you, those are the ones that you can believe in. And you can hold on to those, and you take them seriously because they give you explanations and the reason why. And they get series through time and through history, and it makes everything make sense. And we need to have things make sense, because if we just deal with abstractions, we're lost. We can't do that. Our language won't even allow us to talk about things that are just abstractions. So we need the context. We need the sequencing. We need the historical references, because that gives us the context in which we can grow. But the thing that's really going on here is that you're growing, you're evolving, and you're helping people. You see, you're helping people grow. And you share your metaphors. And to all those people that resonate with your metaphors, wow, those metaphors work just as well for them as it worked for you, because they resonate with that concept. It's a good explanation for them too. So that's why we have hundreds, probably thousands of different spiritual schools, and they all have their own thing that they do. And it's not that oh, this one's right and these are wrong. Only one of them can be right. And they're all right. They all work. They're all metaphors. And you need to take the metaphor seriously. So it has to be a metaphor that you can take seriously. And for you, angels fit into that metaphor that you take seriously. For somebody else, they'd say, angels, you got to be kidding. No, angels, I couldn't take that seriously. And that's not a good metaphor for them. For them, it's something else. Who knows? Maybe it's people from outer space or something else that fills that role of angels. But it fills the same function, basically, except now it's a guy from Venus or Mars or, the Pleiades or something else that fills up that role. Or who knows, an ancestor. Yeah, you come from the places where ancestors are important. That's your great grandmother or somebody like that fills up that role. So the role is a necessary role.
Okay.
But all sorts of metaphors will be there.
I'm interested in the way that this work is developing, in as much as it's replicable and people that don't seem to have a belief system are feeling it, like just like sound and frequency, and I'm excited about that. And when Elizabeth channels, I don't know if you want to do any today, but if you
Tom can totally poke a hole in it.
I know, no, but what I want to demonstrate to people is that as soon as the frequency is connected, I'm connected, and this is what happens. And that's what's fascinating, because science should be looking at this, going, actually, this is something we can measure. This is something tangible, and it's objective, as opposed to something that's...
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those things, they're not only mental, but they're physical. Those things can be, the metaphors can be physical metaphors as well as other kind of metaphors. And yes, you may jerk or jump or your hands do all this stuff, and that's physical stuff. And you're getting that, and that's flowing through you because it's part of your overall metaphor of what you're doing. And the more creative you are, the more creative the metaphors that you'll probably create. So if you're not very creative, if you're just kind of a real dull plotter in life, well, your metaphors will all be very simple and dull and plotting. If you're a real creative person, then your metaphors are going to be more creative and more colorful and broader and deeper.
Well,
it's just
the thing that
people can use your metaphors.
The thing that you mentioned,
measurement is something that I wanted to talk about as well. When I was the last time I was at the Monroe, I think I took guidelines or something like that. So they put the electrodes on, and Patty Avalon, I can't remember her name, but
that's right, Patty Avalon.
Yeah, she was she was in the control booth. And of course, I didn't want to. I wanted to have a really cool experience, but the angel said, no, take the headphones off. And then I started channeling, and the electrodes flew off. And I kind of channeling in this salt water bed, as you are very familiar with. And then at the end of it, I think it was a 2-hour session, Patty said, I need you to take a look at this. And she said, I don't know how they measure consciousness, but there was a score or a chart that said consciousness and a bunch of other things. And she said, you went off, like your reading spiked beyond our reading. Like you were at a higher level of consciousness. And I didn't know how they measure consciousness, but there it was.
They're not really measuring consciousness. They're measuring something else, but So
to me, the frequency did go off. So that was a little bit of validation for me, but the same thing happened when I did an aura reading. You go to these trade shows and you put your hand down and you get your aura colors. And the gentleman said, he said, I'm not reading you. And then he said, try it again. They said, you shot through purple and you kept going. We can't read you. And so that again was, okay, I am reaching higher levels of whatever consciousness. Sure. So I found that interesting. But what Trevor's talking about, this energy, it is information, it is healing energy, it's Christ consciousness energy. They just say we are transmitting, we are clearing, we are releasing. All these things happen. And people will become less angry. Their vibration will change. It'll become higher, and their reality will start to change. And yes, I channel that they're clearing the chakras, but I also can see auras. And so I can see when someone's a really strong meditator and they get a really hard edge aura like that. I don't see that very often, but I have seen that. So, and that again, I'm probably manifesting reality in that moment, but other people can see it as well.
Sure, I see auras.
Okay.
always have, for a long time.
Okay, so I see auras, and that's why I can see angel auras, which are like to me pillars of blue white light.
Sure.
And I've also seen Christ many times as like an orb, and also as Jesus, and also as like an ascended being of white, like not unlike yourself. White beard, white, glowing white. So these things have manifested, but I was curious about the energies because, my goodness, they are powerful. They almost knock me off the chair sometimes. And I know, Trevor, you have that
Well,
experience.
would you be kind of just give us a couple of minutes demonstration just for the viewers that be able to see this?
Sure.
And
I'll
then
back up a little
I can
bit.
feel it coming in already, but maybe, yeah. So I'm just going to relax my body completely.
Okay, so I actually say a prayer. I'm going to say a prayer to the larger consciousness system, okay? Just you talk.
Anything that feels good to you, yes.
I usually say, dear God on high, light of God, Jesus, high angels, archangels, angels, and larger consciousness system. I ask to be a channel of healing, clearing, and heightened awareness for everyone's highest good. Work through me to them, to heal them at all levels. However, they need to be healed, cleared, or made aware. All who come in light and love are welcome. Amen, amen, amen. And they actually trained me to do that. We are of love. We are of light. We are archangels. We are raising the vibration of all in this moment. We are healing, and clearing and releasing negative energy in order for all to become more aware, awake, attuned, to be balanced and aligned with the highest energies, the high energies, high frequencies. Angels are of love. They are expanded beings of love, of healing. We are archangels. We are healing energies, expanded energies. Fear not, worry, be at peace. You are a light. You are a high energy vibration. You are an expanded being. You will become more expanded. It is a process. It is an opportunity. Worry is releasing from the energy of those who will connect. We are clearing. We are releasing. We are healing. We are opening. Ancient energies are releasing from negative energy fields. We are releasing negative energy from those who are not aware, those who are angry, those who are apprehensive, those who are worried, those who are fearful. We are clearing, releasing negative energy from other lifetimes, from this lifetime. It is a process. It is an opportunity. We are assisting in all ways, in all regards. We assist all, no matter what. We are of love. We are of unconditional, non-judgment, eternal love for all. So that's since I met you, that's where I've come out at.
That's a good way to put it. Yes. Well, you see, this being a virtual reality, physical things are easily manifested. If you're the rendering engine, you can render any kind of physical thing at all. So it's not hard for the system to do physical things as well as mental things. And all the motions and things that you did were very expressive of your feeling. That was, the motion was very expressive of what you were feeling inside. And to other people watching it, it was, it's also was meaningful there. There's certain gestures that mean things to people, like if you take your hands apart, that's open up. If you do this, it's stop, go away. There's lots of things. And the gestures that you were making were all gestures of join me, become one with this, connect, open up, let it flow through you as the hands come down, the things are flowing through you. So you're giving people all of these physical cues to connect to what you're doing. And then they can share your mind space. They can get into that thing and they can feel it. And it does clear them. It does make them feel better. It does heal them in ways. That's why they keep coming back, because it works and it's positive. You see, so it's a mechanism. It's a thing that you're doing, a connection that you're making, and you're sharing it with them. They're making it too. And it's all very positive. It's all about healing, about letting go, about opening up. So it's all very positive. So that's a good thing. Now, I could feel that, and I could, Trevor was also responding to it as well. I could feel what he was doing, and I could feel his mind and where he was going with that. And it's all positive. It's all part of growing up. It's not necessary. There's other paths and other ways that one can grow up, but That is a path, and it is a way. It's a way to make connection. It's a way to share. And it will appeal to certain people, and it will not appeal to other people. It'll turn off some people, you know?
Yeah.
But those people have to go find some other metaphors that suit them better. So it's not for everyone, but there's a certain number of people who, if they let themselves go and join and become a part of it, then the whole thing gets dynamic, because it's not just your energy, but everybody that's with you in the process also is creating that same energy, and they're sharing it with each other. And, you know, like you have a mob. A mob does worse things than any individual in the mob, because they're all getting anger from each other. They're all getting angry based on the anger that the next person has. And the whole thing builds into something that is much worse and much uglier than any one of them would be. Well, the opposite also happens. When you get the positive vibe going, it just keeps feeding itself, and they get it from you and you get it from them, and the whole thing gets going. And when you have a whole class of people with you and they're all in tune, wow, that's a powerful thing for everybody.
Yes.
Because it's the opposite of the mob. It's the what do we call it in electrical engineering? It's the positive feedback. You know, every time you get something, you add to it and pass it on, and then you get more and you add to it and pass it on, and everybody's adding to it and passing it on, and it becomes a palpable thing, a thing you can feel, a thing that makes your hair stand up on end, a thing that has physical attributes in your feeling. You might find a thump in your chest, or tingles, or who knows what. Your hands move around. Things happen because that's part of the expression of what you're feeling.
I thank you. I mean, I totally agree. And I've noticed, even in the short period that I've been doing this, that it's changing. So I don't need to use my hands. I can just use my fingers like this and focus my intent, and my body will react exactly the same. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need my hands. And so, it's interesting how we grab hold of tools to do things. I always say it's like building a boat and getting to the other side and then carrying the boat and the tools with you. I think the ability to be able to let go of things and go, okay, that was useful, but there's maybe a more efficient way of doing things.
Exactly. Tools change as you change. And typically the tools that you use represent where you are at that time that you create the tools. And then you tend to outgrow them. And then you find tools that are simpler. Don't take as much time. Don't take as much effort. Don't take as many props. You know, it's like the meditator can't meditate unless there's a statue of Buddha, a little incense burning in a pot, you know, in a perfectly dark, quiet place, and whatever. They have all these things that are part of their ritual. And if you take any of those away, they can't meditate. Well, eventually they get to the point they don't need any of those things. They can meditate on a bus with a bunch of school children, and it's not a problem. But in the beginning, it takes all of this stuff in order to create that context within which it can take place, that magical context that makes things happen. Well, all that is just a letting go and connecting. That's all the context really is. But that's too simple for people to just do it. Let go and connect. Oh, just let go and connect. And they go, I don't know how, you know. But if you give them some context, things to do, rituals to go through, things to think about, angels to see, give them things to connect to, and then they can find the context, and then they can do it. And then 5 years later, they start letting that context go, and they go on to things that are simpler and more efficient and easier.
What's interesting is that it's not like Elizabeth has gone, I want to see angels consciously. It's not like I'm like, I want to speak light language and wave my hands around.
No, not at all.
There's another part of me that obviously believes that. So there's a part of me that I'm not aware of that's making them decisions. Is that right?
Well, it's just something that will work with you. It's something that feels right to you. You know, if you have a feeling, you're making a connection to something, and you want to express that connection, or you want to understand that connection. So what do? You give it a face, you give it a motion, you give it a structure, you somehow give it something that allows you to build context around it. Oh, that's an angel, or that's, this feeling. And it may be motion, it may be visual, it may be hearing, it may be touch, it may be smell, could be taste, could be any of those things. You're taking the data in a data stream and you're converting it into sense data, because that's the only way you know how to think. You can't think in terms of anything other than sense data. Motion, objects, all of that is what our senses get. And that's how we have to think in terms of that. That's how our language is built up. We can't speak. And if you can't speak, if you don't have any language, it's hard to organize thoughts. So we tend to find something that organizes those thoughts for us in a way that's acceptable to us. And that's our tool. That's our metaphor. Yeah. So tools and metaphors are absolutely necessary for beginners. And the more of a beginner you are, the more they're necessary. You just can't get there without them. As you then progress past beginner to intermediate or beyond that, then the tools generally start to change and they get simpler. And it's like, well, I don't really need all that.
So basically,
I want to go out of body. I don't need to lie down and relax and do anything. And all I do is shift my intention. 1/10 of a second, I'm there. So you let go of all the tools. You don't have to go through the process.
So in the next life, Elizabeth, we'll probably just come back and look at people. That'll be it.
That's what I'm shooting for.
But you see, that doesn't help most people. So the people need the tools. They need the process. They need the explanation of why and where and how. And your tool set gives them an explanation. So let's say you do Reiki tools for healing. Then you get symbols, and those symbols mean things. And it's because of these symbols that this happens. And once you have that process, then people can do it. The process focuses intent, so it works. If you just say, all you have to do is focus your intent and you're done, it'll happen. So nobody will be able to do that because that's just too far beyond their ability to do that.
For something for healers to take away from this, then, basically you could have two healers in a room. One's been trained in Reiki and you've got their angelic licenses and whatever else they need, and they've been studying for years, and somebody's got a banana and they can do, the person with the banana can, if they're bringing the information in or bringing the intent, they can do just as powerful or more healing. It doesn't matter about the modality, it's the level of being or consciousness that the healer has. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the connection that he's able to make at an intuitive level with consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental reality.
Yeah.
So it's that ability. And right, if he comes in, with his magic teddy bear, his magic banana, it doesn't matter. If that is plausible to people, if you got a bunch of people and a magic banana is real plausible to them, if that's a metaphor they can use, then it'll work just as well. But if they say magical banana, that's ridiculous. Well, then that metaphor will not work for them. Well, it just won't help them at all.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm well aware of the time. It's flown by. I'm just one more question, which is the buzzword, really, ascension. I'm getting the strong feeling that I've personally been fast-tracked to contribute in some way to raising the consciousness of people in whatever way that is. And there seems to be a lot of things happening, as we all realize, over the last few years that we would never really have anticipated, even though I think 10 years ago you said about 15 years' time. I remember you saying there's going to be something happening around about then. So this ascension, is it expansion? Is it a global shift? Do you feel like more people are becoming awake now because of this? More people are being called to the field, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we are in a, we're in a very special time here where things are changing more quickly than they have in the past. Let's look at, evolution is something. I'll get my hand up here and see if I can't make it go across. The way curves, I'd go the other way. I'll start over here. The way evolution starts is you evolve. That's evolution going up on the x-axis, and there's time going across on the horizontal axis. With time, the amount of evolution doesn't change much, but then it starts going, and then it gets quicker. In other words, it accelerates because the more that you evolve, the easier it is to evolve even more. Mm-hmm. It's an accelerating function. So we're now right at this part here where it goes fast. We're right in the knee of that curve where it's been cranking along with steady evolution, for the last 200,000 years, but almost very, very little progress for 190,000 of those years, and about 10,000 years ago, it started to pick up a little. About 500 years ago, it picked up a little more, but it's accelerating. And now we're at a time, for the first time in the history of humanity, we have an opportunity to take a big step forward as a human race, which we've never had before. And that's because we're all connected now, like we have never been connected before. And a lot of that has to do with the internet. We've gone from being widespread and not really giving a damn about each other because some people live on the other side of the planet and we don't know exactly where or what they do, but they just got run over by a big earthquake and then we really don't care because it doesn't have anything to do with me. You say that, but now we see all that. We see that, there's cameras there. Everybody's on the internet. They can look at that child's face and see the misery that's there because of that earthquake. And we have empathy. We're starting to care more about people than we did before. So that's part of it. We've always had people that had big pictures, like the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, who says the reality is an illusion. I say it's a virtual reality. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. But the Buddha understood that love was the answer. Jesus understood that love was the answer. Most of those leaders understood that love was the answer, but it's always been in the margins. It's never gone mainstream. It's always been in the margins. A bunch of people surround that individual and it grows up into a thing, but the wider it spreads, the more dilute it gets. So if it spreads to 100 million people, well, it's not the same anymore. Now it's a way to make money. It's a way to fund, it's a way to fund an establishment in the religion. It becomes the thing to do on Sunday, but it's lost its basic connection to the spiritual thing because it's spread so wide.
It's a risky business, though, being someone who spreads lots of love. When I think of John Lennon was shot, Gandhi was shot, Martin Luther King was shot, Jesus crucified, and the list goes on. You're kind of thinking, all right, I'm just going to keep my head down a little bit.
Yeah, but Martin Mandela got out of jail.
Yeah. It's 1 out of 5. So
that's not the point. The point is you grow up because it's right.
Yeah.
You do what's right. You don't do, what you think is going to get you a higher wage or make your life longer. You do what is right. And those people all did what was right, and it, went where it went. But now we're going to go quicker. So yes, over the next couple of decades, maybe throughout the rest of this century, but I think in the next couple of decades, it'll start. And because now we have the infrastructure in. And now look, there's, we have Trevor and we have Elizabeth and we have another 10 or 20,000 people just like you guys that are doing it differently, but you're all over the place doing things like that. And we even have Tom Campbell, who does this thing too. But there's all this stuff going on and it all adds. It's all part of the solution. It's all helping people open their minds, see bigger pictures, make a connection to their intuitive side, see that there's more to reality than just stuff. The stuff is like the stage and the props, but there's actors there with thoughts and feelings, and that's what's important, not the stuff. So just
if we're all working,
lots and lots of groups and the people, and I think they're popping up all over the place, and that's good because every one of them has their own metaphor, and the people that resonate with that metaphor will find them to be the perfect, instructor, the perfect leader for what they're doing. And it's good that there's so many of them. It's not that, these are right and wrong. They're all right. They're all good. They're all opening minds, and they're all necessary. You see, and if we have enough people, even 10% of the people who get it, that love is the answer, I think the rest of it will just kind of come along automatically.
So I suppose
we need that critical mass that allows it to feed, go from person to person, go viral, as they say. And that won't happen until we get enough people that have bigger pictures and that if all the people in their various methodologies and various metaphors don't start fighting with each other because, they're right and everybody else is wrong. No, by God, it's the angels. If you don't have angels, then you're wrong, or no, you need chakras. And if you don't have chakras, then you're wrong. We don't want to go there. That would be a great disaster. But as long as everybody's doing their own thing and we're all growing, I think within this century, we ought to see humanity not take a great leap to the end. Not everybody's going to be, wise and full of love, but we're going to see the beginning of a trend of significant motion in that direction, I think, in the near term, because it's happening. Yeah, it's happening, and the system is supporting it. Yeah. That's why you got your blast to wake you up and get going, and it's why Elizabeth had the things that just happened to her. It's happening to lots of people all over, and they're teaching and they're sharing, and all we need to do is to get a critical mass of people that have the idea that love is what it's all about, and then we'll change. Because the nastiness we see in the world is not the fault of the nasty people. It's just who we are. It's us. That's the level of quality of consciousness that the humans have at this time. And as soon as that average level of quality of consciousness goes up, all those other things will take care of themselves. They're just, they are symptoms. They're not the problem. The problem is the low quality of consciousness among the humans. The symptoms are dictators and politicians that lie and cheat and steal, and corporations that want to lie and cheat and steal. Those are the symptoms of the problem. And as soon as we fix the problem, raise the quality of consciousness, those symptoms will just disappear on their own. You don't have to root those guys out and get rid of them. They'll just change. They'll go away. So yes, you guys are helping us get to where we need to go. And the other thousands of us that are doing similar things, with our own metaphors and our own ways of looking at the world. So it's good. Keep going, keep doing it, keep being part of the solution. It's so wonderful.
The message really for the healers out there is that, if somebody's doing something different from you, they've got a different belief system, is to be, have tolerance and compassion, because we're all basically working for the same team. And our team is us, we're self-employed. We're kind of helping ourselves become aware of ourselves, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, any closing words, Elizabeth, before I'm just going to mention the books at the end, but anything you'd like to add? It's been an amazing podcast.
Just thank you, Trevor. Thank you very much, Tom, for elaborating on so many concepts and ideas, and for validating Trevor and I to a certain extent. Honestly, when this started happening, I didn't know what to think, but I did know it was for the highest good, that it was healing and it was expansive. Mm-hmm. And it is all about love. I'm in total agreement with you on pretty much every front. And I can't wait to see, what is the next episode, because it never stays the same. It's always changing.
No, it doesn't. Well, you start out, Elizabeth, it's mostly about you and your own growth, and you're just opening your own mind. That's where everybody has to start. They have to start with, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? What's my point and purpose? And then they have to get rid of that fear, get rid of the ego, get rid of the beliefs. They have to go through all of that. And then once they've made some success in that path, now they can start teaching and helping others. So the first step is heal yourself. The second step is help heal other people. And that just keeps changing. As you grow up, you'll change what you do. You'll change how you do it. You'll change the connection, and you'll move to another level, and you'll teach from that level. So it'll keep changing. So you started where you needed to start. You needed those shocks. You needed that stuff in order to get you going and open your mind and give you the oomph and the drive to go find out and to do things and to experiment. And you were picked as far as giving you these things because you were ready. You were ready to take it and do something with it. So that's why it happened to you. Same with Trevor. Trevor had Even when I first met him, he was talking about he'd really like to open some school of meditation, and be helpful to people. He had that in his mind a long time before he got to the point where he's able to actually do it. Well, that's the way it works. You start, and it's mostly about you and your own growth and your own experimentations. And then after a while, it's not about you so much. It's about helping other people. And then after a while, it's about helping them in a different way. And it just does keep changing. It never stops. It's a wild ride from beginning to end.
You can't get off the bus. You cannot get off the bus.
No, you cannot get off the bus, right? It just keeps going. The reason you can't get off the bus is because you can't forget what you learned. Once you learn something and you've got it, it's not like you can walk away and say, well, that doesn't exist, because it does. And you know that you have some responsibility to help other people. So you just keep going, and there is no end to it. So you're doing what you're doing. You started where you needed to start. You're right where you need to be, and you're learning. So you're still seeking. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You and Trevor are still seeking, or you wouldn't be here talking to me.
What answers? Give us answers, John. We'll always come back to you.
That's always fun.
I have some issues sometimes with telling people my model and the way I think, because I don't want to undermine what they're doing. You see, I don't want to tell somebody, oh, there really aren't any angels. That's just a metaphor. You see, I don't want to crash them. Oh, all that hand jive you're doing, that's just part of what you're making up to express yourself. If I do, that's like pulling the rug out from under them and leaving them empty. And I don't want to do that. That's a wrong thing to do. So I'm very careful about who I tell what, because you let me know that you're ready to learn more and understand it from a bigger picture. So I tell you, but I tell you in a way that is supportive of what you're doing. Keep doing it. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's your way. And everybody goes on their own path, and this is your path, and share it. It's good. But, the fact that angels are metaphors, well, everything's a metaphor. The larger conscious system is a metaphor. Individuated units of consciousness are metaphors. I'm a metaphor. Everything's a metaphor. So it's not saying, oh, it's just a metaphor, like that's a failure, or it's just your imagination, like your imagination is somehow not real. Your imagination deals with information. It's just as real as any information you ever get. It's real. Mm-hmm. You can do things in your dreams and in your daydreams that you can learn from. They help you evolve and de-evolve. It is no different than this reality. It's just a different frame, a different reality frame that we operate in. So it's all real. Are your angels real? Of course your angels are real. They're information. They're real. They have meaning. They have significance. And in your own little schema of reality, they hold certain places and do certain things that need to be done by somebody. So why not angels? You see, it's just a metaphor that works. So I sometimes hesitate about telling people things that will crash the game that they're in, because that's not my intent. I want them to keep the game that they're in and realize that it's a valuable game. It's an important game. But so that's sort of my quandary. I kind of felt like you were ready for that, and so was Trevor. So I was more open with you. But if I thought that you weren't, then I would not have said all the things that I said.
I am open. I know Trevor's open. And I'm always thinking what's behind. It's like the Wizard of Oz, like what's behind the box? What's behind the box? Because I am skeptical. I am, to quote you, an open-minded skeptic. So as these things have happened to me and have evolved and keep changing, and I find myself working with people, which I never dreamed I would be doing, I still am wondering, like, yeah, but what about this, or what about, like, what's really behind the veil there? Mm-hmm. So I know this conversation, this discussion, and your experiences and your perception of things are already changing my reality. They can't help but change my reality. Mm-hmm. And they will continue to. It is an evolution of consciousness, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind that each of us live in our own reality, you know, and you say it changes your reality, but don't get the idea that there's one right reality and all the other realities that aren't like it are wrong. That's not right. That's not the way it is. Everybody lives in their own reality and they see things in their own way and they have to express things in their own way. Otherwise they wouldn't be authentic. You know, they'd be trying to mimic something that wasn't them, wasn't authentically them. So you have to be Elizabeth Rose and you have to say things the way Elizabeth would say them. And you have to use metaphors that resonate with you. Trying to do anything other than that is not you and not authentic. So that's wonderful. You need to be you because there's a lot of people who will only relate to the things you say and they won't relate to anything I say. They'll say, oh, yeah, Tom Campbell, he's maybe has some good ideas, but he's cold and there's no warm fuzzies in anything he does. You know, it's all just cold, logical stuff and I can't stand it. You know, there's people like that. And of course, that's fine. You know, that's where they are. They have to start where they are. They can't start where somebody else is. So they need something that resonates with them to get them to the, you know, to the next step. And there's always a next step, you know, and never do you get to the point where I'm done. This is it. I've got all the answers. You know, I don't feel that way. I don't have all the answers, but I've got a few of them. And I got answers that work for me and seem to be general. But in any case, you have to come up with your own answers, and that'll be your own solution, your own toe, your own theory of everything. And it may have angels in it. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. That's good. It's good because people need that. There's only a certain number of people who can even read my book and you know, get through it. It's hard. It's hard for right-brainers to read. It's a very difficult read for them. They struggle with it very much.
I love your book, Tom. I was reading that book 3 before this, and it just it's brilliant. It explains it creates or provides a structure, and it also is expanding the idea that you can evolve. You can understand the subsets, the different realities, and it's like this amazing machine, or you call it the big computer. It makes so much sense. It is a big computer, and if these are generated angels for the highest good to achieve love, I'll take it. I'm fine. I see it vividly, and I can paint it. I'm going to illustrate my next book because I have seen so many images now. I wish I could just hit a button and print them out. Yeah. So I love your work, and it makes a lot of sense. And I have a scientific mind and an intuitive experience, whatever that is. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you're doing.
You're very welcome. My model is not the model; it's a model. And, you know, your model is a model too, you know, and Trevor's model is you know, they're all different, and that's good. That kind of differences are important. We need those. You know, there are people who will relate to what you say that won't relate to what I say, and vice versa. You know, and that's excellent. The more we have more people, you know, like us that are out there, and I think there's many more than there have been in the past. So that's why I think we're up to something big is going on, because there's lots of us out there now.
And this is why we need to get it out there. We need to express ourselves, connect with as many people, get the media out there as much as possible, so people can realize that, oh, I'm not alone in this, because it's quite a lonely job. It's quite a lonely job when you step out of the normal and you start doing things that are extra normal. So for us to have the internet, to be able to communicate, to have books, to have audio material, it's so powerful and so effective. And I think the more content we create that's useful, I think that's what's going to benefit more people.
We're a story, like I'm very much a storyteller. And so that's probably why I have this reality, whatever it is. And it's these stories that captivate imaginations. Your experience is very scientific. And so the scientific minds are attracted to that. And and you're the healer, the sound man, so there again, you're a sound kind of person. So we attract these different people who are interested. Buddhism, same thing. They have different lineages because they have different personalities that are attracted to it. It makes so much sense.
Sure.
Well, all I can say is thank you very much. One last thing. On the night of my awakening, the consciousness system has a sense of humor. It was saying, write the book. And it told me the name of the book. That was 8 years ago. And then recently I had a session with Elizabeth, and they're going, write the book. So anyway, I've started the book, and it should be out in August. So I've just designed the cover yesterday, and it's called For God's Sake. Which,
beautiful.
Yeah, the next one is going to be called Jesus Christ, and then the one after that is going to be called God Almighty. So they're saying there's volumes to come. So yeah, but it's very interesting. So speaking of books, if people want to learn more about Tom's work, this his trilogy, which is Awakening, Discovering Inner Workings, My Big Toe, and it's also available as audiobook. Also, Elizabeth's book, which is Diamond Lantern, Waking Up to Who You Really Are. That's available on your website even. All the links for both Tom and Elizabeth will be in below in the links of this YouTube video. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And let's hope that this answers many questions for people out there, and also allows them to, or enables them to start being a bit more investigative about their life as well. So thank you. Awesome.
We hope so. Well, thank you, Trevor. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth, for spending the time to be with us.
Well, thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Tom. I so appreciated today, and big fan, Tom and Trevor. Yeah, just very thrilled about what you're doing.
Okay. And for everybody else, check out Tom's Park. That's his latest project. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is my latest project. And I came up with Tom's Park because I had so many people. It's probably about 20% of my class would always be trying so hard, but just didn't get it. Just couldn't get there, couldn't get out of body, couldn't really remote view very reliably. They just seemed to work at it and work at it and work at it, and it just wasn't happening for them. So I realized that the problem was there's this big problem because you're either here in this reality or you're in some other reality. And it's a 1 or a 0. And that transition was the hard part, getting people to get past that transition, because their intellect would sit there and say, am I there yet? Am I there yet? Let's see. Or somebody, oh no, that's my physical hand. That's not my out-of-body hand. Darn, Getting past that transition was the thing that was stopping them. Their intellect couldn't let that happen. So I came up with Tom's Park, which is a way to avoid that, to where you don't suddenly go from here to there. It's a smooth, intermeshed process, and you find yourself are here, and now you're part here and part there, and now a little less here and a little more there, and back and forth. That's all fluid. And that way, it's much easier for these people to do it. So it's just that it was a new process. So Tom's Park is a very short book. It's only 60 pages. And it's an expensive book. It's $80 for 60 pages, but it's not really a book. It's a training course that you can use iteratively probably the rest of your life. It's something, if you're a beginner, it's great. If you're an expert, it's great. You'll learn something through the process. And the whole idea was to introduce people to the larger consciousness system and all the things paranormal, everything paranormal, seeing auras and out of body and healing and remote viewing and all of those things. I have special ways to help people do that through this process that doesn't require them to have that drastic change in mental state that so many people have such a problem negotiating.
Well, maybe we'll all meet up in Tom's Park for a chat and an ice cream.
Sounds like a plan.
So this is your website, My Big Toe, MBT events. Again, these will all be the links, and also Elizabeth, therosecottage.ca for private sessions. And thank you very much. And I will see you somewhere.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. Hey, Trevor, send a copy of this when you get it edited to Don and Keith, and they'll put it up on my website.
It'll be ready for
on my YouTube site, I mean.
It'll be ready for the morning, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Likewise.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank
So
you.
long, everybody.
Bye.